Okay. All right. Here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Brother Doug. Shabbat Shalom. My mom's sister Sharon is with me right over here. We got Brother Yahusha, Brother Dennis, and Sister Marissa. So today we're going to be continuing our Proverbs study. All right. So, Mom, could you start us off in Proverbs 29?
Sure.
Let me see here. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay. A man who remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. By justice, a king gives a country stability, but one who is greedy for bribes tears it down. Whoever flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his feet. An evil man is snared by his own sin, but a righteous one can sing and be glad. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. Mockers stir up a city, but wise men turn away anger. If a wise man goes to court with a fool, the fool rages and scoffs, and there is no peace. Bloodthirsty men hate a man of integrity and seek to kill the upright. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. If a ruler listens to lies, all his officials become wicked. The poor man and the oppressor have this in common. Yahuwah gives sight to the eyes of both. If a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will always be secure. The rod of correction imparts wisdom, but a child left to itself disgraces his mother. When the wicked thrive, so does sin, but the righteous will see their downfall. Discipline your son, and he will give you peace. He will bring delight to your soul. Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint. But Baruch is he who keeps law. A servant cannot be corrected by mere words. Though he understands, he will not respond. Do you see a man who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for him. If a man pampers his servant from youth, he will bring grief in the end. An angry man stirs up dissension, and a hot-tempered one commits many sins. A man's pride brings him low, but a man of lowly spirit gains honor. The accomplice of a thief is his own enemy. He is put under oath and dare not testify. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in Yahuwah is kept safe. Many seek an audience with a ruler, but it is from Yahuwah that a man gets justice. The righteous detest the dishonest, the wicked detest the upright.
I really like verse 20. If you see a man hasty in his words, know that the fool has hope rather than he. And I think because of the times that we live in, the fact that we can text one another, we can call one another and immediately answer, right? I think that has really damaged us. You don't have to answer immediately just because someone does something. You can if you don't have it,
Mhm.
sure, just better to keep your mouth shut until you do your full research.
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
But also that gives of just being presumptuous because right we have the with texting to your point you don't know the person's tone um you don't fully understand what the person's writing to you when they're texting because you don't get the tone of it. You don't see whether they're saying it, facetiously
Mhm.
or what like with technology, you really can't decipher that.
Right.
I think this is the only way you can truly decipher it is like webcam stuff. But when you're talking about messaging and texting, not really.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's the only problem is with messaging. It's like tone gets lost. Um,
Yeah.
okay. And all that. So I was just getting a drink because my mouth was like really dry. So was there anything like really, really caught your eye in this chapter, Mom? Or
Just look at something.
I was trying my best to have her version up here on the screen while she was reading. So let me see here. Let me go back to my browser here, see if there's anything I didn't catch. Damn, my sinuses today. What the heck?
I just thought 25 was a little interesting. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in Yahuwah is kept safe.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of like divides right there things of this world, things of people we're dealing with versus Yahuwah.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I don't know about that. I think I'm going to have to go ask my pastor.
I find
No.
it interesting that 13 kind of reminds me of the prophecy of Yahusha. The poor and the oppressor have this in common. Yahuwah gives sight to the eyes of both.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me of Isaiah 42:7, Isaiah 61, verse 1, which, by the way, if you look in your modern Bibles, it's taken out. Open the eyes of the blind is taken out.
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I just find it interesting whether this is talking about allegorical or physical. I just find it interesting. This seems to be showing that Yahuwah is the one that opens the eyes of the blind, which would then point Yahusha to being Yahuwah if that's the case.
Whatever version Jesus of Nazareth movie they used, that was included. He included that when he was.
I wouldn't be surprised if they included the Septuagint back then. They would have known about it in the 60s or 70s.
Hey, you
They
guys,
yep.
this is 29. I believe we read 29 last week because the study's showing 28 to 29. I was wondering why it's so fresh.
Ain't it?
Right. I was kind of wondering, but I wasn't
All right.
sure.
So all right.
So
Well,
we just got 30 and 31.
yeah, we'll just do 30 and 31 then. That's my fault. All right. Let's see, Proverbs 30. I think I'm gonna call on you, Sister Marissa. I noticed you volunteered there in the chat. So if you want to read Proverbs 31, I mean 30, my bad, not 31. I don't know why I said 31. If you want to read Proverbs 30, let me know.
Okay, can you put it up on the screen so I can read?
Sure, sure. Do you have any preference? Like, do you want the ISR on there or the Septuagint?
No, whatever you have up there is fine.
Okay. Let me just.
That's not on you. I think that's something that we all need to be paying more attention.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to start notating it.
All right, whenever you're ready, sis.
Okay, the words of Agur, son of Yaqi, a message. This man declared to Etiel and Ukal, for I am more stupid than anyone and do not have the understanding of a man. And I have not learned wisdom that I should know the knowledge of the set apart one, who has gone up to the heavens and come down, who has gathered the winds in his feast, who has bound the waters in a garment, who established all the ends of the earth. What is his name? And what is his son's name, if you know it? Every word of Eloah is tried. He is a shield to those taking refuge in him. Lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar. 2 matters I have asked of you. Deny them not to me before I die. Remove falsehood and a lying word far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me my portion of bread. Lest I become satisfied and deny you and say, who is Yahuwah? And lest I be poor and steal and seize the name of my Elohim. Do not slander a servant to his master, lest he curse you and you be found guilty. There is a generation that curses its father and does not bless its mother. There is a generation clean in its own eyes, but not washed from its own filth. There is a generation, oh, how haughty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are swords and jaw teeth are knives, to devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among men. The leash has 2 daughters. Give, give. 3 are not satisfied. 4 that never say enough. The grave and the barren womb. Soil not satisfied with water, and fire which never says enough. An eye that mocks his father and scorns to obey his mother. Ravens of the wadi dig it out, and young eagles eat it. 3 matters are too marvelous for me, and 4 which I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the heavens, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship in the heart of the sea, and the way of a man with a girl. This is the way of an adulterous woman. She shall eat and wipe her mouth and say, I have done wickedness. Under 3 matters the earth trembles, and under 4 it is unable to bear. Under a servant when he reigns, and a fool when he is satisfied with food. Under a hated woman who marries, and a female servant who supplants her mistress. There are 4 matters which are little on the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a weak folk, yet they make their homes in the crags. The locusts have no sovereign, yet they all go out in formation. A spider takes hold with 2 hands and is in sovereign's palaces. There are 3 matters that are going well, and 4 are good in walking. A lion which is mighty among beasts and does not turn away from facing all. A greyhound and a male goat, and a sovereign whose army is with him. If you have been foolish in lifting up yourself, or if you have plotted evil, put your hand on your mouth. For as milk under pressure brings forth curds, and as a nose under pressure brings forth blood, so wrath under pressure brings forth strife. The beginning of this chapter reminded me a lot about the days that we live in today, regarding, all the evil that is taking place. It just sounded so like today's world we're living in.
Yeah. Interesting. What's kind of interesting is verse 4 is a little different in the Septuagint. And it seems to imply it's not talking about his hand, it's talking about his bosom or his robe. So that's kind of interesting. Who has gathered the winds in his bosom, who has wrapped the waters in a garment, who has a dominion over all the ends of the earth. What is his name? And I know I've heard the argument that it says children here, but I think if we go to the Greek here, it can be plural or singular. If I'm not, I could be wrong, but I remember looking into this that just because the Greek says children doesn't mean it's always plural. I'll just show you here what I'm talking about here in the Greek. Technon, G5043, offspring in general, children, and then it goes from one to a child, B, a male child, a son. So on certain contexts, the Greek could be still saying son. So it's I think it's just mistranslated there, in my opinion, in the English Septuagint there. I think Breton and others have not considered the context and just translated as children rather than son. So a lot of people make that argument that are anti-Septuagint when they go to Hosea and they talk about, well, see, it doesn't match the New Testament because it says children instead of son. But if you actually look at that Greek word techion, it can mean son as well. It's not always plural. So that's kind of the confusion that if you just look at a translation, you don't look at the word that's being translated. But that's one of the major differences I've seen in the Septuagint verse 4 there is bosom instead of hand. Like, doesn't yours mom say he gathers the winds in his fist or his palm in the Masoretic rather than his bosom?
He has gathered up the wind in the hollow of his hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Masoretic says in his hand versus the Septuagint says in his bosom. So that would be like his chest,
Right.
his heart, his chest.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder like what the significance there is with the difference there.
One exudes a little more emotion than the
The Septuagint seems to, in verse 9 as well, seem to give context to what's being said here. It says, "Lest I be filled and become false and say, who sees me and be poor and steal and swear vainly by the name of Elohim." So this actually isn't this a quote from Paul? This is similar to, remember when Paul says, "Don't let me become poor or rich." And he talks about, let me see if I can find that verse. If anyone else has anything to add, feel free. I just want to.
I remember the first time I read this verse, just to share something. Doug and I were going through some of the leanest times in our life. And I remember this verse meaning an awful lot to me at that time.
Or rich.
Give me only my daily bread.
Because I think Paul pulls something from this. Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Gotquestions.org. Yep. I figured. Yeah. Okay. I just need to find the one from Paul. You said just give me my daily bread?
Yeah.
Is how it's worded?
Mine says, give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread.
Yeah, so he's partly quoting then from this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Paul's version not showing up? This is weird. Do you remember where Paul says that?
Oh, I don't. I really don't.
Don't give me riches or poverty. see. It's weird how they're showing results for the Proverbs one, and then the one from Paul they're not showing. So I know he's said that. I remember seeing in his letters him quoting that. Maybe if I type in Apostle Paul, maybe it'll pull something. This is weird. You know what? Maybe the New Heart English Bible, sometimes they have really? They got no cross reference for that? This is weird.
Possibly you may be confusing what he said with something else, possibly Philippians 4:12.
Yeah, I could have swore he said something similar to that. That's weird. Yeah, I think it is in Philippians. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. So that's my bad there. I could have swore he directly quoted from that one somewhere. Says, I know what it is to have a lot. I know what it is to have a little. Let me just see something here. Interesting. Anyway, I mean, it's the same concept, really. It's that we should be able to be okay in abundance or lack of, basically. We should be able to serve Yahuwah the same no matter our circumstances, is the point he's saying. Interesting. The Masoretic says convenient. They got to change everything, man. It's supposed to say needful and sufficient. The Masoretic changed that to convenient. That gives a whole big difference there with that word. It's either that or the King James really mistranslated it. Yeah, let me see here what other translations say there, because that seems like the King James did not translate that correctly. Yeah, it's actually supposed to say lawful bread. Okay. It's still a little different, but not as bad. I mean, lawful still means like what is lawful versus just convenient means like whatever is convenient for a person, which would be against Yahuwah's character for someone to ask that. That's a servant of Yahuwah to ask, give me what's easy or convenient. So I'm glad the Hebrew there actually means lawful or an ordinance. So that's a go ahead.
Major realignment of politics around the idea that we've gone too far. We have to rethink the entire way in which we have been approaching the massive forces of structural change, economics, globalization, information revolution.
Uh-oh, looks like someone got a video going on.
Oh, sorry guys, I'm taking care of hold on.
But the deep and
Yeah. But lawful's a little bit better there. So I'm glad the Hebrew there is actually lawful and not convenient. That would have worried me a bit. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, yeah, sorry about that. I was taking care of Virgo.
Okay.
Oh,
No worries. So yeah, the King James. This proves that the King James translators did not know what the hell they were doing. They translated a Hebrew word that does not mean convenient as convenient. So either they were really stupid and didn't know the Hebrew language, or they were trying to change things. Because nowhere in this definition does it mean convenient.
Mm-hmm.
It says a lawful, specific degree, conditions. Nowhere is it saying convenient there. So that's at least a little bit better. But I like how the Septuagint says sufficient, meaning what I need
Right.
rather than what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So uh,
I like Charles Thompson's in verse 32 and then the ending of verse 33. I don't think the other ones really make much sense to me. But in Charles Thompson for verse 32, it says, if you suffer yourself to be elated with joy and engage in battle, you will incur disfavor. What I'm seeing there, like, you know how people can um, get really ecstatic in emotion and feel like they can win any fight, or they'll get drunk and get elated with
Mm-hmm.
feel like they can win any fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, yeah, it could be wrong. It could be talking about something else, but that's what it seems.
yeah, I could see that. There's a lot about Proverbs that talks about stuff, general stuff like that. Like I remember there's even a proverb from Solomon about don't when you see a man and a woman fight, don't get involved.
Yeah.
Like Solomon would give he would give you even like technically marital advice
Yeah.
in some of his proverbs. Like, listen, man, like let them be. That's none of your business, type of thing.
Yeah. I guess
know.
he would have had some experience in that.
Yeah. Which we see some things in the Torah about that. Like, if a woman sees her husband fighting another man, she shouldn't try to like pull on the man to, you know what down there to help her husband. That's a crime. So there's definitely stuff in the word about like certain situations like that with fighting,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I could see that being the case.
With the next verse, it says in the Charles Thompson, so if you use, at the very end of it, it says, so if you use provoking language, contentions and quarrels will ensue. That definitely makes way more sense than the Complete Apostles Bible. So if you extort words, there will come forth quarrels. And then I think the Masoretic reads, so the forcing of wrath brings forth strife. And then Charles Thompson, if you use provoking language, contentions and quarrels too. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Verse 32 kind of reminded me of our topic from last week where we were doing the expose on Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of funny that anime and stuff like that and martial arts movies, they kind of portray like fighting becomes a like addiction for them.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in that series, that anime, all it is fighting. They're constantly fighting. They're going to war and to battle so much that they can't even cheer their wives.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have mentioned that in last week's expose that that's another anti-biblical thing is that the main character of that show is constantly fighting and going to battle, caring more about going to battle than raising his own son, than being with his wife. constantly neglecting his wife to wanting to fight. So I think that could be something that verse 32 is talking about, because it says here to be elated with joy and engage in battle. So it seems like the context would be they're always wanting to engage in battle. They're always wanting to they're always joyful to fight. And it almost becomes like an addiction. And and stuff like that. And you see a lot of that with the Romans and the Greeks. They would constantly go to war. They would constantly want to fight. That's what all they cared about. I think what was that movie 300, where the guy was like, "Well, it's we would rather die in battle than be cowards," and their whole thing was like the greatest joy for a Spartan was to die in war.
Yeah.
So it's like they idolized war. It's
Mhm.
almost like they worshipped fighting.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I could be reaching, but that's kind of what I see from verse 32 as well, as people that are given into fighting, or they love strife and all that. But yeah. Oh, brother, I don't know if that was a new hand or an old hand or. So let's see here. I don't think here. So we're at what, chapter 31
Mhm.
now? All right. So we had you read, Marissa read. I think I might finish us off here. Um, just for time's sake here. These are the words of mine been dictated by Elohim. They are the prophecy of a king whom his mother instructed. What will you keep, my son? What keep the okay, this is really weird, the wordage is using. I'll use the Complete Apostles Bible rather. The words of Elohim, my firstborn son, speak to you what, son of my womb, what, son of my vows. Give not your wealth to women, nor your mind. No. To living, to remorse. Do all the things with counsel, drink wine with counsel. So, we got any Baptists listening in here? Right here, King Solomon's mother is telling him to drink wine with counsel. So obviously drinking wine of itself is not a sin. So, because I know a lot of people that have misunderstood certain verses and stuff like that and get the idea that drinking alcohol of itself is a sin. But you'll see how there's many verses that actually show drinking wine but not getting drunk is completely fine. Princes are prone to anger, let them not drink wine, lest they drink and forget wisdom and not be able to rightly rule the poor rightly. Give drink to those that are in sorrow, wine to drink to those that are in pain, that they may forget their poverty, may not remember their troubles anymore. Open your mouth with the word of Eluah. Rightly rule all fairly. Open your mouth and rightly rule righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and the weak. Who shall find a virtuous woman? For as such as one is valuable, more valuable than precious stones. The heart of her husband trusts in her. So no. Such a one shall stand in no need of fine spoils. For she let's see, for she employs all her living for her husband's well-being. Gathering wool and flax, she makes it serviceable with her hands. She is like a ship trading from distance. So she procures her livelihood, and she rises by night and gives food to her household. And she rises by night, gives food to her household, and appoints tasks for her maidens. She views a farm and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a possession. She strongly girds her loins and strengthens her arms for work. She finds the experience that working is too. She finds experience that working is too. Her lamp does not go out all the night or all night. She reaches from her arms to needful works, applies her hands to the spindle. She opens her hands to the needy and reaches out fruit to the poor. Her husband is not anxious about those at the home when he tarries anywhere abroad, for all her household all are clothed. She makes for her husband clothes of double texture, garments for herself of fine linen and scarlet. Her husband becomes distinguished person in the gates when he sits in the council with old inhabitants of the land. She made fine linens and sells sashes to the Canaanites. She opens her mouth heedfully with propriety and controls her tongue. She puts on strength and honor and rejoices in the last days. Interesting. That's an interesting verse there. Does yours say in the last days?
No, it doesn't.
That's interesting.
Days to come is what it says.
But she opens her mouth wisely and according to law. The ways of the household are careful, and she eats not the bread of idleness. Her kindness to them sets up her children for them. They grow rich, and her husband praises her. No. Many daughters have obtained wealth, many have worked valiantly, but you have exceeded, you have surpassed all. Charms are false, and a woman's beauty is vain, but is a wise woman that is Baruch, that let her praise the fear of Yahuwah. So it says, it is a wise woman that is Baruch, and let her praise the fear of Yahuwah. Give her the fruit of her lips. Let her husband be praised in the gates. So, right there's a major difference that I always point out. Proverbs 31:30 in the Masoretic will say she should be praised, but in the Septuagint it says let her praise the fear of Yahuwah. So there's a huge distinguishing difference there. Go ahead, brother.
The Charles Thompson in verse 25, it reads, enjoy delights in her latter days. I did look in the ABP. It doesn't really give you any help because the word there is not the root word. The root word is eschatos, but there's added letters in there, and I'm not sure if that added letters would make it be the or her. It doesn't really say.
Yeah, when I get a time, I'm going to check on eSword where I have the green OT, not green, Greek OT plus, and I got the LXX plus, and I can kind of look and see if there's any words they didn't translate into English. Sometimes that happens.
Oh no,
they won't.
All the words are translated, but with the G2078, there's added letters in there that could change. The word is last. However, by adding in those extra letters, just like you do in Hebrew, it's possible that instead of it being last, it's her, like with the word ab or abba. All you have to do to change it to our abba is add the inu at the end. So possible that Greek does that as well, that you can add in a suffix to the word and change it.
I don't know. I would have to look up if Greek is able to do that. I know there's certain things that Hebrew and Greek don't equal on. Like, for example, like the suffix I've never seen the Greek have a plural with added suffix like Hebrew does. Like, for example, like Adonai.
Oh, I'm
Like-
not saying plural. I'm saying that it can add instead of just the word, like,
Yeah.
okay, chair. You can change it to the chair, her chair, his chair.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's got to be something in the Greek language that gives possession and stuff like that. There's got to be something. What I'm seeing though is the word "the" is definitely not there. In the ABP, it's showing that the word "the" for
That's
last date.
That's
Yeah.
because the word in and of itself, that's what I'm, even though the ABP is showing that the word the is not there, by when you look at that word that's there is not the root word. So those added letters can add possibly the or her or his. You look at that, that's not the word that's there. G2078, it looks like it, if you were to look at it in English, it looks like it says EXO but the G2078 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters in the text.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. So I don't know. It could just mean her last days. That's what it could be referring to, like the length of her life. That's what it could be referring. Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think if there was any other major differences here. Give her the fruit of her lips. Let her husband be praised in the gates. Does yours say that in verse 31? Let her husband be praised in the gates?
Yes, we did say that.
Okay. Let's see here. According to the law. That's interesting too. It says she opens her mouth wisely and according to law. I wonder if that's referring to the Torah. Verse 26 there. Oh gosh. Ankle today. What I like here is it shows a Proverbs 31 woman. Everyone wants to talk about like what a Proverbs 31 woman is. Part of it though is that she's even at home, she's working.
Yeah.
She's making clothes, she's selling things from the clothes she makes. She's selling, it talks about she sells her sashes that she's made to the Canaanites and this and that. Now, I know some people that believe it's okay to sell Yahuwah clothing will go to this chapter, but it says nothing about her putting scripture on her sashes. It says nothing about her putting, Yahuwah's name on a sash and then selling it. So I think it's important that we take the context of what's given. Is that it's just talking about clothing in general, guys. They
Right.
Usually when the Hebrews made clothing, there was no symbols on it. There was no, there wasn't Yahuwah's name on it, Yahusha's name on it. There wasn't a picture of a menorah on it. There wasn't a picture of a Torah scroll on it. Like, I don't think that they were doing that in ancient times, unless you're talking about clothing Yahuwah set aside for the Levites, but they were never sold. Like, stuff that were made for the Levites and all that were special for the Levites. They were not used to make money off of. So I'm talking about as far as clothing that you would sell to someone. There was no such thing as logos and putting scripture on it and all that. That didn't come until, I would say, probably Christianity was the first people to really do that. Like to put a Bible verse on a shirt and then selling it. There you didn't have that until Christianity. I don't even think Judaism did that, if I remember correctly. That was something like maybe starting in the 50s, the 60s.
Probably.
The whole you see all these like shirts in a Bible bookstore, like Proverbs 31 woman and this and that, this and that. That's like something that they kind of created on their own. But anyway, because I know some people out there are going to say, well, see, this proves it's okay for us to sell scripturally based clothing and all that. And the thing is, like, if you can show me somewhere in history of Israel's history when they were being righteous that Yahuwah was allowing them to do that, that's a whole nother story. But from scripture, what we're seeing in scripture and what we're given in history, the Israelites would have never done that. That's something they would never think to do.
Mhm.
So the only time you see that in scripture being done is done by someone that's wicked, like
Yeah.
Simon the magician was trying to buy the set apart spirits so
Right.
that he could gain more followers, and he
Mhm.
was basically trying to extortion the good news.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a perfect example of what not to do.
Mhm.
But anyway, I don't know, brother. Is that your old hand that was still up, or I'm getting confused? Okay. So, if we don't have anything else to add here, we can kind of close it out for today and end this recording, and I could try to get this uploaded as soon as possible. If you guys enjoyed this study and you like the type of stuff that's being put out here, feel free. I'm not trying to pressure you. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like, share, comment if you got questions. Feel free to reach out if you're looking for fellowship. So just want to say Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Enjoy the rest of Yahuwah's Sabbath. And see you next time. Shabbat Shalom.